Hello, friends and family, and everyone who is watching this show. You're listening to Heart with Saima, the podcast show for people searching for that courageous person within us who wants to be inspired by listening to stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm Saima Dillon, your host. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here. Let's dive right in. My guest today is Paul Whitley. He's a fractional CFO that helps businesses grow exponentially. His goal is to help you achieve your goals. He's a transformation technology leader with extensive experience in creating problem solving, operations management, coaching, mentoring, and training. His passion is to help both large and small companies set up and implement financial, operational, and digital transformation initiatives that improve processes, reduce expense, and drive bottom line profits. So without waiting, let me bring Paul. Hey, Paul, welcome to Heart with Saima. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on there and listening to all of those words. I'm wondering where in the world I got those out of a dictionary or a wordsmith or something. It's a lot of big words. Bottom line, try to help companies be better than what they were before I met them.
So, Paul, I don't know if you remember, but this was, I think, around 3 years ago when I walked into your meetup meeting. And I still remember myself walking into that meeting because I was like, okay, where am I? And I think that meetup of yours was actually about LinkedIn. And LinkedIn was something that I was focusing on, and I was, I've been in that growth phase where I've been growing and learning and evolving. And at that time, your meetup was about LinkedIn, and I was like, okay, you know what? Let me go and enhance my knowledge about LinkedIn. And I when I went up the building and I saw the room, and I kind of stopped there for a few minutes, and I was like, okay, where did I actually come? Because, it was, I think, 80% men, and there were a lot of them, and, some women. And so I had to quickly take this deep breath and say, okay, you know what, just go.
Well, I'm glad you did. And yes, I do remember the very first time I was talking to you, you had some business activity that was going on in the real estate. You had some other things that you were looking at and trying to expand upon. I remember to this day that conversation. And I'm thinking, oh boy, she has walked in. Here's about 50 to 60 go-getter, burn down the world type people. We're going to do this better. And if she's not prepared to get on the gauntlet to run, this might be a little overwhelming. But you jumped in and continue to come to meetings, which I appreciated. So
absolutely. So, Paul, we were just talking before the show started, and I was telling you that age is just such a. I think age is just so insignificant. I think so much of it is just the mindset and the resilience and that feeling to persevere and to grow and to just keep going. And what is it that drives you? Because I know you have a couple of great grandkids, so I won't refer to the word old, but it's you're out there, you are a go-getter. Even today, and you're just continuously growing and learning.
Well, I'd say the general statement is I have no plans to retire. I don't know what I would do with myself. My wife would probably want to kick me out of the house. It's an old joke. But reality is, if you don't have the opportunity to do something that helps people, helps yourself, helps you expand yourself, you stop growing. When we stop growing, you sit down. And once you sit down, it's not a pretty sight. So yes, I learn programs, I teach programs, etc. And as you mentioned, we do have a C-suite group. And by C-suite, I mean the CXO groups. There's about 300 of us that meet together, and we drive each other to find business, but we also drive each other to learn more things. So I don't want to stop learning. I'm very aggressive, and you've seen that, you've heard that. Not going to stop. So if you're not going to stop, then you have to go do something. So now I want to go do something, whatever that might be.
I think it's just something amazing that happens to the brain, Paul. I think there you reach a certain age where, and I think life happens to everyone, right? So you reach a certain age, and I think that's that point where you are like, okay, either life is just going to stay where it is, and you're just on that path, no matter what that path is, or there's this fine line and you say, okay, you know what, whatever it takes, I'm just going to jump in, and whatever is waiting for me, whatever my destiny holds, I'm just going to live my best life. I'm going to enjoy this journey. I'm going to grow. I'm going to evolve. And you turn into this student for life, which changes your brain chemistry. It turns you into this person who's just always ready to go out and just learn. And I think that could actually be that fact which just keeps you youthful and it keeps you young at heart.
I agree with that. As we were talking earlier, for me to go back at 20 years ago, which sounds like a long time until you put all of that to the rest of it. But as a gray-haired senior executive in a company, to go back and work on his master's in internet technology and e-commerce, and to get that kind of an education and become a geek, there's not a lot of gray-haired geeks around. But that kind of learning desire just expands. And again, if you're exercising the mind, you're trying to expand your own horizons. But if you have a servant leadership personality, you want to try to take that, learn it, and then help others with it. And if it helps you in your career, that's great. But if it helps other people, regardless, it's wonderful. And I enjoy doing that.
What made you start C-Suite?
Well, it came around to I'd been doing I was a hedge fund director, and that hedge fund failed. And I was out there trying to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And in that process, I became aware of the fact, for me to go interview for a job and have a millennial recruiter ask me if I needed a walker, I figured I needed to change my career. And the fact that I had a lot of experience in different venues, different verticals, meaning I'd been a lender, I'd built a business to $200 million, I'd been an accounting manager over 1,000 locations. It gave me an opportunity to turn around and say, okay, maybe I can help somebody else and do that with enjoyment, without being tied down to either one company or having to be in that job market. So today, I'm a fractional CFO for several companies, and I never know what's going to be the next problem that I'm going to be asked to resolve, but a whole lot of them come around to, we need money, we're going to do this, we're going to expand, we need to grow. And fortunately, through this year, all of the companies I've worked with have survived the COVID issues. I did 22 payroll protection loans for companies. A lot of companies I'd never even met the people before, but we became friends and opportunities and helped them get through. I mean, yesterday I'm on a call. A guy calls me and he said, I think I want to move forward. And I said, well, now you've done these loans, right? And he says, well, I did the payroll loan, but I didn't know anything about what's that thing called, the EIDL? And I said, okay, tomorrow we're going to get online and we're going to get you $150,000. and you don't have to pay it back for several years, and you pay like 1% interest on it. He said, can I do that? I'm going, well, sure you can. Whether you engage me or not, I'm going to do that. We're going to get on there and get that for you. So after this call today, we're going to be going out and getting another person, another $150,000 to help his business be in better shape. I love doing that.
So, Paul, in the email or the bio that you sent me, you had something in there that you wrote that I know where my strength comes from, my family and desire to be a servant leader. So, where does that strength to just be a giver, to go out there? It takes a special person to want to just give to humanity, to just open your heart and your mind and your soul, to just because I believe that the universe is all created. We are all the same, and
Yep.
I think when you put goodness out there, it's just good. So there's good that you're doing, and you're doing it for the world. Your doors are open for everyone. What is it that makes you be that way?
Well, I know my strength comes from our Father in heaven. He has graced me and allowed me to go forward knowing where I'm going to go. With that same strength, I now turn around to give that same grace, if for want of another word, but mercy is probably a better word, to my family, to others that need the help, but it also gives me a totally different perspective of the relationship with them. I've had my times of being prideful in life, and in looking back, I wish I had more gratitude when I had some of that pride. But I've been blessed, and when that pride came for a fall, I found out that humility was much more pleasant and much more beneficial to me and to others. My strength comes from a Father above, pure and simple. My family is now my support, and my job on this earth is to take care of them.
Can I ask you how old you were when the hedge fund that you were working on, or that you were running, or when that collapsed? How old were you?
62. And when the call came in, my credit VP, senior VP, called me and he said, I understand you've got some money coming into the hedge fund. Now, this is September the 24th. You have some money coming in on October 1st into the hedge fund. And I said, yes, I've got contracts to bring in $200 million into the fund on October 1. He said, you may want to put that on hold. And I asked, why? Why do I want to do that? Well, ultimately, the fund had a company that had stolen basically $1.5 billion from the fund and put it into the death spiral that occurs when those things happen. And I had a lot of money invested in the fund, and it was very discouraging. I was working then because I wanted to, or I didn't have to. I had the funds. I just was working and enjoying life. And fact is, 1 month prior to that occurring, I just had the experience of taking my wife for her 65th birthday to Ireland for 3 weeks. Loved it. We didn't worry about those kind of things. We didn't have any bills. We were just very comfortable. And all of a sudden, life changed. And that is a very humbling experience. So it's at the same time, though, I found I had more strength than I ever needed, and more love from people than I'll never say that I needed, or more than I needed. I needed all of it, but it's pride goeth forth fall. It does. So pick up those bootstraps, pull them, tighten them, and let's get going. Since that time, and even during that time, I was helping companies and had that gratitude of, I funded some 304 companies over about a 15-year period, and had that empathy and understanding of helping those companies do their business, and got to be good friends with a lot of people. And then when that happened, I continued to help the companies that we had funded with the hedge fund to get with other funds, and then ultimately with banks and things. And then finally it came around to I needed to find a career that was going to fill my desire to survive, number one, number two, to take care of my family, and three, hopefully enjoy what I do. So that's why C-suite support has never been monetized. We don't charge anybody for anything. If we can help people in their career do better, do more, that's what I choose to do. And, but during that same time, I've been a membership coordinator with our church, Prestonwood Baptist. Also work with a group of trying to mentor to guys that just can't get their stuff together. They have broken families, or they're in the process of breaking up their family because they have issues that they're not addressing. So I get great benefit of helping somebody find out what is important in life as opposed to what we want in life.
That's a very strong statement right there. What is beneficial to us in life versus what we want in life.
Well, I've been there, I've done that. So, I don't speak from any position other than may our Father in heaven always watch over us.
Absolutely. What may so that must have been really difficult. You were 62. Everything fell apart. Everything that you had worked towards. It's a very tough place to be at, Paul. And when I started coming to your meetings, I was at crossroads. My husband has lost his business, and it was just that point where things had fallen apart, and there were just multiple. It's that point in life where you're getting hit from every direction, and everything, even the positives, they turn into negatives because your energy is so negative that it was that point where I was searching, and you talked to a lot of people there, but I remember you asking me, how can we help you? What can we do for you? And I was like, I don't know, because I was looking for direction. I was looking to, change the course of my journey. And that's not an easy place to be in. And then to finally, it takes so much time, and it takes a lot of courage to build yourself and to bring yourself to that point where you're like, okay, you know what? Okay, now, it's, you can breathe and you figure out, this is what I need to do. This is, what my journey is meant to be. And this is what I've come into the world to do. And then you come to terms and you're at peace with yourself, and then you start following that journey. So I think that's what you've been doing, and that's where you are. And how many members do you have in a C-suite?
Approximately 340.
Wow, that's a huge number.
It is, and it's a very strong, good group of people. There's a lot of business owners, CEOs, board members, B2B people, and very few of the members are like yourself, where you're more of a B2C, business to consumer. We don't kick you out, but realistically, we're trying to help businesses help themselves. But behind every B is a C. There's a
Yeah.
consumer or a person that runs that business or owns that business or is a member of that business. So if you're helping the business, and that's, kind of the environment today, we've got to make sure that as many businesses as possible survive. They
Yeah.
get through the current environment, they come out on the other side, and we get back to a place of growth. And following along what you said a minute ago, one of the first things I think every person needs to do, regardless of we find out that we can't do it ourselves. That's when we finally start to listen. But we need to sit down. In my opinion, I'm going to tell you the first thing I think you need to do is pray. Pray for peace. Pray for the ability to listen, and then sit down and listen. Quit talking. Quit trying to figure out everything you can do, and listen. And once you've got yourself to a position to where you do listen, you will start hearing conversations come in, what you can do, how you can do, what steps to take. And once you open your mind to it and you remove the stress and the fear that comes with the uncertainties of it, you don't always get the answer you think you're going to or what you're looking for, but you will get an answer. And then when you do something with that answer, remember that at some point in time in your life, you probably were at a strength level of wherever it might have been, whether you worked for a company and was excelling, or you owned a company, or you had a lot of people that worked for you. All of those things that you have in what you grow, you start developing some kind of level of pride in what you do. And not that I'm opposed to having pride in what you do because you want to do it well, but you don't want to have pride in what you do because it's you.
You don't want it to go to other people. I think that, you don't want, I think what you're saying is when we deal with other people, it has to be done with humility. It has to be done where, and that's what I feel, that whatever I choose to do in my life, humbleness is extremely important. Like I said before, I'm a firm believer that, and I don't think it's about that either, but the whole universe is created by the same creator.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Humility is a strength.
yeah,
Most people look at, or when somebody says they're humble, or that they should be humbled, or that you should be humbled, or whatever, most people immediately go to, that's a weakness. There's a problems. There's a something. But humility is a strength. And it reminds me of a quick story that I was involved in just in the last week, where a couple of guys, there was a group playing basketball, and the minister that I was talking to, he's kind of by the name of David Shivers, quite a character. But at any rate, a couple of guys were just harassing another guy that come in, was playing, just talking trash to him is the expression that he used, giving him a hard time and kind of getting in his face to make him mad. And what they didn't know is the guy was a Navy SEAL. He was humble. He maintained his strength. He maintained his posture and position. He never did anything. But he had the ability within a little less than half a second, or a little more than a half a second, to completely annihilate that person. But he didn't. That's humility. That's strength.
absolutely. I think, unfortunately, Paul, there's just no shortage of bullies. And I think most people don't even realize that when you try to undermine someone else, and when you try to pinpoint someone's weaknesses, it doesn't make you a courageous person. It actually makes you a bully, because we're all imperfect people.
Well, when you try to make someone else look bad to make you look good,
Yeah.
there's a problem.
Yeah.
And reality is many of those people, they do succeed in life, and other people look at it and say, why do they get all the benefit, or why is that CEO so successful and he's just not a good person?
Yeah.
Well, life isn't fair.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into any of that analogy factor, but reality does come back to, what did you do today to help somebody else? What did you have gratitude for? And when you put your head on the pillow tonight, can you thank your creator for the good today? And thank you for thanking him for having the opportunity to do something to help somebody else today and not ask for anything in return.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just Paul. I grew up in Pakistan, and I remember this one, quotation which used to be on the TV screens always as I was growing up, and it just said, "Which of the favors of your Lord will you deny?" And it's just so it just fills you with humility when, because that's literally what it is. We have just so much to be grateful for, that we just cannot deny, and you know the abundance. And I mean, there's just so much to be grateful for always, no matter what you go through. The people around you, the things that you have the ability to do, we're just so much better off than right now. These are difficult times for a lot of people. These 2020 has been a year full of tests for people. And how have you been handling this? What are you telling these CEOs and these different companies that you work with, that you're helping out, and you're trying to help people sustain so that businesses don't get shut down? How, I mean, it's a very tough time.
It is. Some of the first things you do is take it as an opportunity as opposed to a problem. That opportunity with all of the business companies, leaders that I worked with, the first step was, let's look at your business. What are you doing that you are doing because it's nice, as opposed to it has to be done? Get rid of all the nice things, get down to your business, survive. With that business, how do you pivot? And that's an overused term now, but how do you pivot from going this direction to go this direction so that you can survive and take care of your family? 3 days ago, one of the people that I'd helped with another situation, they called me and they said, we just got this email and it says, do this. Should we do it? And I said, yes, do it. You've been asking for it. You asked me to help you with it. This is the payoff time. Do it. She says, oh my goodness. She says, just when I think I'm going to have to close my doors, something like this comes in and I can survive another 6 months. Basically, she got the money that we were trying to get that she was turned down for. I went back. I didn't charge her a penny. We went back, worked with the situation, got them to agree that it was fine, and they got the money they needed for their business to survive. I don't charge for that. I take great pleasure in helping that. And it comes in, all of us need to understand that it doesn't matter where we start. It's old cliche is how we finish. We didn't have to be born with a silver spoon. I wasn't. You weren't. We didn't say that it was, I'm the way I am because they did whatever they did. You get up and you take a step and you go forward. You got to do that. You can't go through life blaming somebody else for why you didn't succeed. You go through life figuring out, what do I have to do next to
To
succeed?
fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And my kids, sometimes, I have two daughters, and sometimes they get really annoyed because I'm like, okay, tell me, how should we fix the problem? We can only stay in a victim mode to a certain point. And after that, it's all about survival, and it's all about getting up and keep going. So what do we need to do to find a solution to this problem? And that's how life has to be. We all fall down, things happen, and we are constantly faced with challenges. And I think 2020 for me was also one. That's how the year started. Being a realtor, everything just stopped. There was just no business. Market picked up in July, but prior to that, everything had just stopped. And so it was a matter of, okay, you know what? How, like you said, how are we going to view this? Are we going to stay in this victim mode, which is not going to find where there are no solutions to the problem? And, you're just going to, misery attracts misery. And, or you're going to pivot. You're going to change your mindset, and you're going to be like, okay, like for me, I came to your meetups 3 years ago, and I've been just learning and educating myself and growing and taking webinars and classes, I think on like a daily basis. And I was like, okay, you know what? This is what 2020 means. It means that it's time for me to change and to actually start executing everything that I've been learning. And I started just changing. And this is where the podcast is, when I started streaming. And it's like, okay, I'm messaging people, okay, yeah, how do I do this? Why is my mic not working? Just like little things. And then you're like, okay, you know what, it will all work out, and you just keep growing.
Keep taking steps. And I'll give someone else a major piece for me. Many years ago, early in my career, I was a manager over quite a few people. We're talking about 22 years old, and I'm a manager over 100 people. And I go to the supervisor that I worked for, and I took him a problem a couple of different times. And finally, he said, "Paul, sit down." He said, "I appreciate the fact that you're pointing out problems that need to be taken care of. But I've got several hundred people out there that could come in and tell me all the problems I need to look at. What I don't have, and what I want you to be, is the person that's going to come in and tell me, you've got a problem, and here's 3 solutions. What I think the best one is, what I think the next best one is if that won't work, and what I think the third. But I'm going to come in with 3 solutions to your problem that I'm going to give you, and then I'm going to go fix them." He said, "When you do that, you are now being a manager, not only of that problem, but of yourself and potentially your life. Whenever you're faced with a problem, come up with 3 solutions, develop the pros and cons of those 3 solutions, make a choice, and then be committed to go do it." That changed my life. It really did.
So, Paul, going back to the personal aspect of your life, something else that you wrote in your bio, you said from being a foster home for 5 kids, polio, music, meeting my wife. So share some of what do you tell us more about the foster home that you referred to, the polio that you referred to, and something that I wanted to also do right here was I wanted to share a couple of your pictures here. Which is these are just such beautiful pictures, and you've been married for 48 years. Wow, that's a
I
very
all get
long.
my coverage. Isn't she beautiful?
She is, absolutely, she definitely is. um so share tell us a little bit more about being a foster home and some of the things that you wrote.
Well, like I say, we all have our stories. When my parents were, they were blue collar. They were not able to make ends meet, so they decided to become a foster home for Buckner's Orphanage Home. So we were assigned, or whatever they do that. I was just one of the kids around there at that time. They were approved to have 5 kids. So we, for several years, we had 5 foster kids that lived with us, and they rotated in. They either found a family, got things in. They were usually there 5 or 6 months at a time. So for me, I had all these playmates, but to put all that in perspective, I had my mother and my father, my grandmother, a brother, myself, and these 5 kids in a 2-bedroom house.
Wow.
So, those kind of things give you a different perspective of what's important. But you grow up in that environment, and then during that process, I came down with polio. That created problems for me, and the braces, and the situation of coming out of that. It gave me a lot of time to read, a lot of time to focus on things other than just playing games with the kids in the backyard or whatever. And that gave me certainly a level of drive. I had to walk again. I had to move. I in my mind, I mean, it's just survival. You don't sit there and think, I've got to do this, and you just do it. But you make your decisions, you get up and go. And fortunately, I was graced enough to have some good doctors and good therapy and et cetera, to where, no one would really be aware of any kind of the problem that I have with that from a physical standpoint. Because of the polio, I couldn't play in sports. So that put me into music. And I love to play a trumpet. Played a trumpet, I did pretty well with that, and played in jazz bands, had the opportunity to play with the Dallas Symphony, played with different groups, and love to do that. Played in the church orchestra, and got to sing in the choir and all that. Music to me is a big thing. So I love music, and to this day, it's a big aspect of our life. And then, the fortunate thing of meeting my wife that you just showed the pictures of earlier. She had 2 children when we met. So when we married, I had an immediate family, and it went from being footloose, fancy free, I'm going to burn down the world, to, there's a family here. And at a fairly young age, started that. So I grew up fast with that. But those things that you go through, again, we talked about it earlier, their fault or my opportunity. So you don't look back, you go forward. It's you do with what you got and go forward. So now we've got 3 children, 8 grandchildren, 2 great grandchildren, love them all. And because of the beauty of that little girl that you showed just a minute ago, all of those kids are, I'm prejudiced, but they're beautiful kids, have beautiful families, and and all of them are successful, which that in itself is, something I'm proud of. Not prideful, but proud of.
Absolutely. I mean, as a parent, as a grandparent, as a great grandparent, I think that those are the fruits of your life, the seeds that you sowed, and so that is just those moments of pride for your family and for the people around you that you love and you cherish. And I think, I mean, that being your home open to as a foster home, I mean, I can't even imagine how that must have been right there. Kids coming in with broken hearts and going through whatever it is that they must have been going through, and kind of coming into your life and transitioning through. That must have had such a major impact on your resilience.
Well, it had a lot of impacts, and as you can imagine, when everybody in your life revolves in and out, as opposed to evolving, it's hard for you to attach or build a relationship because number one, you start them and then they're all broken, and then you realize, well, if you start them, they're going to break. No, then you don't start them, and then you just become more of a function or whatever. So it for me, I went very introspectively to doing whatever I needed to do to succeed, and it wasn't succeed to me; it was to do it whatever it was. Play the trumpet. I had to be the best there was. And not because I had to be the best there was. I'm going to be better than that guy that was sitting beside me, and learn how to do that and be all state, be all region. It was okay. I'm going to perform. And you talk about, am I? You see me in front of the C-suite group. Well, I used to play my trumpet, playing solos in front of 1,000 people. I love doing that. I just thrive on doing that. Well, my wife, she says, yeah, typical trumpet player. You got to get out there and just go blow your own horn. She keeps me humble. She really does. And I, about when we came back to town, came back to Dallas about 10 years ago, I decided I had about 3 or 4 weeks to sit in the pew with her before the orchestra and things cranked up. And I said, maybe it's time that I lay that horn down, and I like sitting with you in the pew. Let the kids take over. And I don't know if you know anything about Prestonwood, but they've got 45-piece orchestra and a 500-person choir. And
Wow.
they do. In fact, they're doing a national telecast of music telecast come up here for Christmas on major stations. I mean, we're talking about some pretty quality
Wow.
music, I guess, is the way to put that in perspective. But I love that, and as a result of it, I now appreciate it as a spectator. And like I say, let the kids take over. And rather than me spending 40 hours a week practicing or playing or performing or whatever, I'm going to try to help other companies figure out how they grow, they protect their employees, save their companies if possible. And like I say, all of my clients have made it through and they're thriving. So we're good.
Paul, I wish you would have told me that you played the trumpet. I would have told you to bring it on, and we would have had like a live performance right here.
I don't think I laid it down about 10 years ago. It would not be a pretty sound at this point.
On that note, Paul,
On
tell
that
us,
note,
how can you help people? Who can you help, and how can you help?
well, as we started off this podcast, I am a fractional CFO that helps companies grow, because I've actually grown a company as the CEO of that company from 6 million to 180 million. I had to deal with the personnel problems, with the people problems, with the growth problems, and with the marketing. So I learned so many things that I would never have had the opportunity to know before that. But I started that career after I'd been an accounting manager over 1,000 locations. So financial things to me are back of hand, but that also gave me an opportunity to look at a financial and see a lot of things that other people don't see quickly. They may see them, they just don't see them quickly. That allows me to then look at a company and help them identify things they can fix, things we need to look at, or turn around. Like one of my clients right now is a manufacturing client. And one of the first things to do was to look at what was their profit by product. They have a limited level of products. So let's determine where you are on the profitability by product. Had some that were a problem, got those fixed. And the next step of that was, because they had some problems in their pricing and how they were doing things, they had lost some contracts. We have gone back and been able to get those contracts. That particular company is projecting, and I've only been with them now 4 months, but we cleaned up their financials, got their pricing structures in place, went out and negotiated contracts for them. They're anticipating a 60% increase in revenue next year. They were ready to close the doors this year. And when they contacted me, it was a concerning. I was actually brought in to try to find a buyer to sell that company because they didn't think they were going to survive, and they were trying to find somebody that could bring it, had enough money to come in and fix them. Well, actually, today we just got the letter of intent from the lender to provide all the financing they need, in addition to doing these contracts, which one of them started effective December 1 today. The other two are going into effect in the next 4 weeks. And it's going to take a company that was doing 14 million in revenue, that was failing, to a company that's going to be projected to do 22, 23 million next year and be extremely profitable in the process of doing that. And it only took sitting down and figuring out the problems to turn that around. Well, that's a pretty good sized company, but the same premise happens in whether it's a small company or a big company. Are you doing things right? Are you profitable at every level of every item you're doing? If you're not, can you fix it? Here's the problem. Here's your 3 solutions. You determine what we've got to do to get those solutions. Then let's put in something to let you measure it by. What are your measurements? If you don't measure it, it didn't happen. So we get what's called the key performance indicators. These are things a CEO, company owner, people in the company, they need to have something to say, I attempted this, I succeeded this many times, or this works or this doesn't work, and why. So, the difference between a CFO like myself and a CPA firm or a controller, CPA firm or a controller and accountant, they look backwards. They go figure the numbers and said, this is what's happened. This is where you are. And you need to know that, but you also need to have somebody in your company that's saying, okay, that happened, but let's do this so that this can happen. Let's look forward. So that's what a good CFO does. He looks globally at the company. What do we need to do to fix problems? Find those 1, 2, 3 answers that can be resolved and do that. So I thoroughly enjoy turning a company around or identifying what they need to do to succeed. And usually one of those things they need to do is get financing. And the fact that I was in the lending world for almost 20 years and funded $2.4 billion to different companies, I've got a lot of contacts as well as a lot of methodology processes, understanding how to do business plans, et cetera, to help even a small company, a 2 million, 3 million, one that's trying to get to a million, learn what they need to do to get there and go out and get financing for them. I've got 8 clients right now that 7 of those 8 I've funded some level of funding for, anywhere from, and 2 of those have never made a dime profit. They're still in the burn stage. They're what's called SaaS, software as a service company, but they have a disruptive product. So I was able to get money for them. I love that.
Wow, turning something from a helpless situation or hopelessness into hope. And hope is, I think, what everyone thrives on. Businesses, real life, everything thrives. I mean, that's what we base everything off, right? It is hope. And when, when someone like you enters that premise of, that business environment where people are thinking that, okay, you know what, we'll have to shut down, and to be able to see that ray of light where there's hope that, hey, maybe we won't have to shut down our business, something that we've given our days and nights and our, everything that you've got into being an entrepreneur or building a business or building a company. I mean, that's just really powerful right there.
Well, the satisfaction, the peace that comes from that. And, when it's all over, I don't want to sit there and take credit for any of that. I was just the tool that helped them get what they needed to have. Sometimes they wanted it, but more realistically, they needed it, and we were able to get it done. And they did it. It's their companies. They had the entrepreneurship and the ability to put their ideas into something. I only had the opportunity to come in and help them when they needed it.
Sometimes that's what you need. I mean, that's what you need. You need that person to, like I was telling you, when I was going through that phase of mine 3 years ago, and it was just that, being hit in every direction, and your energy is so negative, and you just start thinking that everything is just going downhill. Sometimes you need that someone to throw you that life jacket, or that to come in,
Yeah,
right, to, to
absolutely.
to just give you that hope and say, okay, I'm holding your hand. It's just you, instead of looking that way, you just need to change your perspective and just flip things around, right?
Right. Open your eyes and see it from a different perspective.
That's all that is needed, is just that key to changing your perspective, into changing your trajectory, changing your mindset, and your journey, because sometimes it's your own mind which is holding you back.
Many times. Boy, that
Many
is so
times.
true. And that holds true for all of us. I mean, none of us are exempt from having that happen to us. We many times are our own worst critic, and at the same time, we think we cannot do it. And it goes back to Winston Churchill: never, ever give up. Never, ever give up.
Yeah, just like the Nike ad, just do it, And I I think that's the person I've become. It's like, whatever happens, you know what, just go do it. Whatever will be, will be.
Yeah,
If you don't
and
do
what are your options? If you don't go do it, it won't get done. So just go do it.
it, just do it, and you know what? If nothing else, if even something else will, some other door will open, or something else will happen,
Right.
and so. Uh, Paul, what advice would you give to people who are really struggling right now? Um, and who can you help? Who would you like, and where can people find you, and where can people reach you?
Well, I think the first thing that, there's a lot of people hurting right now, a lot of people, and they don't know where to turn or what to do. Um, Quite honestly, first thing they need to do is determine whose child are they. Turn to their Father in heaven and learn what to do and how to listen to your Father in heaven. Sit still and listen. Now, with that, when you listen, you need to be in position to hear and then do something with that. As we talked, sometimes it may mean a different job, career. It may mean a different path to go. It may mean you have to ask friends for help. You need to ask. With that process of asking, you're going to find out, number one, who is a servant leader or who is a person that is willing to help. If you don't ask, you're never going to get. So go ask. Then do something with it and appreciate. And if you are in a position to be fortunate enough to turn that, find a way, look back and find somebody that you can bring with you to help them. The more you help somebody else, the more help you're going to find. So start with helping others in whatever it may do. Volunteer for things, get involved in programs, go to anything that you can. And I realize we have the mask and different things, but there's still a lot of people that need help. Go help somebody else. And in the process, you're going to find somebody that wants to help you. From my viewpoint, I want to help any company that I can help. Now, obviously, I have a selfish position of the standpoint of wanting to take care of my family. But a lot of the things that I do, I don't charge for. I am a strategic alliance partner with the Entrepreneur Organization. I do a lot of speaking with them, provide a lot of information to them. I don't charge them for counseling sessions, working sessions, things that they do. If they want to engage me to do continuous work with them, then I'm very fortunate to have that happen. And if I can, I think I can turn a company around. If they've got a product that somebody wants to buy or a service that somebody needs, then I think we can do something with that. So I can help a company that has enough tools to get started with, or help a company understand that this is not an option. We need to make a pivot and do something different. So everything I do is in one form or another helping somebody survive, how to survive. And in the meantime, if I help enough other people get what they want, I'm going to get what I need.
I think that right there is the law of reciprocity, where I feel what you put out there into the world is what the world will give back to you. And, having said that, Paul, where can people reach you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn under Paul Whitley with C-Suite Support. I'm very easy to find from that standpoint. My email address is pwhitley@c-suitesupport.com. My personal email is mail, M-A-I-L, @pwhitley.com. And my phone number is 214-477-6039. If I don't answer, I will get back to you. Maybe tied up on calls or working with companies, and it may not be immediately available, but I will return the call and we'll see what we can do.
Paul, on that note, thank you for being on Heart to Heart with Saima. My purpose is very simple. It's just to touch lives, and I tell people, let's touch lives together. Wherever we can bring change, help people. And thank you for being here. Thank you for what you are doing, and having C-Suite with your doors open and have all these people who come in and and you give them hope, and you touch lives wherever you possibly can. So I do appreciate you being on my show, and thank you so much, Paul.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me on. You have a
Absolutely.
great holiday period. Have a great Christmas.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for
Take care.
being here.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Everyone, thank you for everyone who was listening. Thank you for carving out the time to hear what was shared on today's podcast. If this inspired you to take the next step in your journey, then I want to invite you to join my email list by emailing vip@simadillon.com. And of course, if you know this podcast episode will help someone else, then help me change lives. Take 30 seconds to simply share the link to the podcast in a text or post it on social media. I will be so grateful. Until next time, this is Saima. Thank you for being here.